The Americans are building a massive defense shield called the Golden Dome, which can destroy any missile, including those from the Islamic Republic of Iran, in the sky. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has announced that this missile system is not only going to cover American soil, but will also protect all American bases in Europe and Asia. This news has made waves around the world, especially for Iran, since the Americans consider Iran a potential threat to themselves. The Golden Dome means an arms race is on the way between the US, Iran, China, Russia, and all the countries in the region. And this could have extremely dangerous consequences for our region. Greetings to you all. I am Elias Farouk, this is Persian Trend, and in this video, we're going to find out what the Golden Dome is. What is its purpose, and how much of a serious threat could it pose to our country? The Golden Dome is a massive missile defense project that the United States wants to use to protect its entire territory, and even its overseas military bases in countries like Japan, Germany, Israel, and South Korea from long-range missile attacks, especially nuclear missiles. This system is intended to be a multi-layered shield that operates from the ground to space, capable of neutralizing all kinds of threats, from intercontinental ballistic missiles to hypersonic missiles, cruise missiles, and even advanced drones. Donald Trump has described this project as a much more advanced version of Israel's Iron Dome, but the reality is that these two systems are worlds apart. The Iron Dome was designed for a small country like Israel, which mostly deals with short-range rockets and drones. But the United States faces much greater threats, such as intercontinental missiles from Russia, China, North Korea, and even potentially Iran in the future. In his speech on May 20th, 2025, Donald Trump announced that the Golden Dome is set to become operational in less than 3 years and claimed that this system, with nearly 100% accuracy, can intercept any missile, even if it has been launched from the other side of the world or from space. However, more recent reports say that the initial version of this system might be ready by the 2030s, and completing it could take until the 2040s. This contradiction is itself a controversy because it shows that even the Americans themselves are not sure this project will become operational so soon. Let's dive deeper together and see where this project came from and why it's causing so much commotion now. The idea of building a defensive shield for America isn't new. It goes back to the 1980s when Ronald Reagan introduced the Strategic Defense Initiative, also known as Star Wars. Back then, the goal was to protect America from Soviet ballistic missiles. But the technologies of that time weren't advanced enough, and the project essentially failed. Now, 40 years later, technology has advanced a lot, and America is once again returning to that same idea. But this time, with more modern tools like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, advanced satellites, and even laser weapons. Why now? Because the threats have changed. General Michael Gatlin, who is in charge of implementing this project, has said that America's adversaries, namely Russia and China, are rapidly modernizing their missile arsenals at an astonishing pace. Hypersonic missiles that travel at 20 times the speed of sound, ballistic missiles with multiple warheads, cruise missiles that can evade radar. Even non-state groups and smaller countries are gaining access to advanced technologies. America's current missile defense systems, like the THAAD system, can't cope with these new threats. Scientific reports have shown that in tests, THAAD couldn't even stop simulated North Korean missiles, let alone more sophisticated missiles from Russia or China. Trump had been focused on this issue since his first term as president. In January 2025, just a few days after starting his second term, he signed an executive order that was called Building an Iron Dome for America. Now, in May 2025, he has announced that the Golden Dome is much closer to becoming a reality than anyone had thought. But the question is this just a political show or is it really going to happen? Now let's move on to a topic that's very important for us Iranians. What does the Golden Dome have to do with Iran? According to a report by the US Defense Intelligence Agency, Iran is one of the potential threats that the Iron Dome was designed to counter. For years, Iran has been working on ballistic missiles like Sejil and Khorramshahr, which have ranges reaching several thousand kilometers. However, these missiles have not yet reached intercontinental range to be able to directly target US soil. But Iran's advancements in space launch vehicles like Simorgh and Zolyana have sounded the alarm for the United States. A DIA report states that by 2025, Iran might be able to build missiles capable of reaching US territory. This means that from the US perspective, Iran is a long-term threat that they need to prepare for now. From Iran's perspective, the Golden Dome is a big challenge. For years, Iran's ballistic missiles have served as a deterrent tool against Western pressure. Now, if the US develops a system capable of neutralizing these missiles, Iran might be forced to allocate much more budget to developing newer missiles, such as hypersonic or radar-evading missiles. This could be a heavy financial burden for Iran's economy, which is already under the strain of sanctions. Even worse, the Golden Dome might push Iran into a new arms race with the US, which could escalate tensions not just for Iran, but for the entire Middle East. If Iran tries to develop missiles that can bypass this shield, it's unclear what will happen to regional security. And if it doesn't enter this competition, its missile deterrence might be weakened. These are the questions and choices that the military officials of the Islamic Republic need to find answers to from now on. Now, let's take a look at the technical details of the Iron Dome. This system is designed to be a multi-layered shield that operates from the ground all the way to space. Its main goal is to destroy enemy missiles in the very early stage of their flight, known as the boost phase. The boost phase is when the missile has just launched from the ground and its rocket engines are still firing. At this stage, since the missile produces large flames, it is easier to track and target. If they can hit the missile during this phase, the entire warhead, which could contain several warheads, will be destroyed at once. To achieve this, the Golden Dome needs several main components. First, a large network of tracking satellites in low and medium Earth orbit that can detect missile launches from anywhere in the world. It's been said that SpaceX is working on a constellation of 400 to 1,000 satellites that use artificial intelligence and quantum computing to predict the trajectory of missiles and quickly relay the information to interceptors. Second, there's a set of about 200 offensive satellites that can destroy enemy missiles using interceptor missiles or even lasers. This part is highly controversial because using laser weapons in space could violate international laws. Third, ground-based systems like the GBI missile interceptors at the Alaska base, which are set to be upgraded with a new generation of interceptors so they can also counter hypersonic missiles. Fourth, ground sensors for tracking threats such as drones and cruise missiles. New information suggests that the US might use high-altitude drones, stealth aircraft, or even balloons for interception during the boost phase, which is a more integrated and cost-effective approach. Farzin Nadibi, a researcher at the Washington Institute, has said that the Golden Dome is different from the Iron Dome. The Iron Dome is designed for short-range threats, but the Golden Dome is intended to counter intercontinental missiles, cruise missiles, drones, and even hypersonic missiles traveling at 20 times the speed of sound. A new and controversial point is that the Golden Dome is not just for US soil. This system is supposed to protect US military bases in Japan, Germany, Israel, South Korea, and even the Middle East. This means that the US is building a global defense shield that could shift the balance of power in these regions. For example, in the Middle East, this system could make Israel stronger against Iran's missiles, which poses a strategic challenge for Iran. On the other hand, this move could prompt other countries to strengthen their missile arsenals, which means a new arms race in the region. Now let's talk about money. The Golden Dome project is not cheap. Trump has said that over 3 years it will cost about $175 billion. But reports from the Congressional Budget Office say that long-term costs could reach up to $540 billion or even $1 trillion. The US defense budget for 2025 is about $895 billion, which means the Golden Dome could swallow up a fifth of that budget. And that's just the initial construction cost. Maintenance, replenishing missile arsenals, and system upgrades all cost a lot as well. New information suggests that if the US wants to cover its overseas bases as well, the cost will be even higher. Trump initially requested a $25 billion budget in a major bill to get things started. But many people say these expenses could put pressure on the US defense budget, especially since the US already has a lot of debt. But the question is all this spending worth it for a system whose effectiveness is still uncertain? The Golden Dome is surrounded by political and international controversies. One of the biggest controversies is that this project might violate international laws regarding the militarization of space. If the US puts thousands of offensive satellites into Earth's orbit, Russia and China might do the same, and the space arms race could begin. This could fill space with debris and make it impossible for anyone to use space. Another controversy is related to SpaceX and Elon Musk. It's been said that SpaceX, Palantir, and Anduril are working on the main components of the Golden Dome. But the rumor that's caused a lot of buzz is that SpaceX wants to offer the system as a subscription service. This means that the US government must pay Musk to use this system. For many people, this is unacceptable because it means a private company would have control over a vital defense system. Another controversy is the conflict over the project's timeline. Trump says the Golden Dome will be ready in 3 years, but experts say the initial version will take until the 2030s, and the full version won't be ready until the 2040s. This conflict could undermine trust in the project and shows that even Americans themselves aren't sure when it will actually happen. The Golden Dome isn't just for America. Canada has said it wants to be a partner in this project. According to statements from Trump and the Canadian Prime Minister, negotiations for cooperation are underway.
To keep our country secure and our communities safe.
Canada has previously cooperated with the US on defense projects like NORAD, and now it might provide part of the funding or technology for the Golden Dome. This cooperation could make the project stronger, but on the other hand, it might make other countries like Russia or China feel more threatened and prompt them to respond. The Golden Dome is a very ambitious project, but it faces a lot of technical challenges. Intercepting a missile in the boost phase is like hitting a bullet with another bullet at a speed of 15,000 miles per hour. An official from Lockheed Martin has said that this is one of the toughest challenges in physics. New information suggests that the US might use drones, stealth aircraft, or balloons for interception, which would reduce costs, but there are still many technical challenges. Todd Harrison from the American Enterprise Institute has said that even if this system is built, its cost could be crippling. Adversaries could force the US to spend a lot of money by building cheaper missiles. Laser weapons could be a solution, but this technology is not ready yet. Moreover, to cover more than 9 million square kilometers of US territory and its overseas bases, it might require thousands or even tens of thousands of satellites. With hundreds of tracking satellites and 200 offensive satellites, it's unlikely that all threats can be neutralized. The point is, if the Golden Dome succeeds, it could change the world's defense equations. The United States could claim to be impenetrable against missile attacks, which would be a nightmare for its adversaries like Russia, China, and Iran. But if it fails, it could trigger a dangerous nuclear arms race. New information suggests that countries not covered by this system might move toward developing their own nuclear weapons, which could make the world even more dangerous. For Iran, the Golden Dome sends a clear message. The United States is doing everything it can to neutralize Iran's missile capabilities. This could force Iran to develop newer technologies like hypersonic missiles, which are both costly and could further escalate tensions in the Middle East. On the other hand, if Iran doesn't enter this competition, its missile deterrence might weaken, which poses a major risk for Iran's foreign policy and security. Now that we've reviewed the story of the Golden Dome together, it's time for you to share your opinion. Do you really think this project can make America and its bases impenetrable? Or is it just a political show that spends billions of dollars without achieving the slightest result? I'd also like to hear your thoughts about Iran. Do you think Iran should also enter this arms race, or should it maintain its security in another way? I read all your comments and will respond to as many as I can. Until the next video, take care.